So welcome everyone. This is another podcast of Venture Cafe, and today I have a very amazing guest. He's called Wilhelm Roth. He's the CEO of Icoinic Capital, I have to say. And we're sitting here today, and he is one of our sponsors of the Thursday Gathering. And we aim to demystify the world of cryptocurrency, I think. And that is something that is close to my heart, I think, is that for the last few months I've been into this whole crypto thing too. And I noticed that there's this whole hype going on. A lot of people around us are also joining the hype. Maybe it's not good to call it a hype, but it's see, the last few years, everyone is talking about, do you have like crypto, and hearing about people earning a lot of money in crypto. Made me decide to download, I think Bitfavo was it, and to join the journey of let's see what it does. And a lot of visitors in Venture Cafe are doing that too. And I had a lot of questions. And with Venture Cafe, we organize those Thursday gatherings, especially for our community. And whenever we hear that the community is really into something, we have to jump on that and let's see what the trends are and make sure we get the best speakers and the best companies. So here you are, Wilhelm.
Well, a pleasure being here. Yeah.
Thank you. So we would like to, start with just tell us who you are, a personal part of your, story.
I'm usually really good at talking about the company and things like that. About myself, I'm usually quite shy. But Wilhelm Roth, usually I prefer when people call me Will. It's just when people call me Wilhelm, it sounds like my dad being angry at me or something. And my career was primarily focused with and around fundraising, which also brought me to really take a look at the Venture Cafe and what you do and the way that you bring the community together to talk about different topics, and of course crypto as for my specialty. I've been working with and around the crypto ecosystem from around 2015 or so, when I got quite acquainted with at the time cryptocurrencies rather than just Bitcoin, or the good old story of a person that bought a slice of pizza with 12,000 Bitcoins, and you're like, that's a lot of money today. And I started my journey kind of going into that rabbit hole from looking at how do we build a sustainable UBI, or universal basic income structure in southern Germany. And at the time, 2015, crypto was not really as well advanced as it is today. And it took me quite some time before I moved here to the Netherlands and started working within a few other asset managers here, until, of course, I landed in Icoinic. And it's amazing to see, and I think that maybe connects to my character. I'm a person who loves working at the front lines of new technology, and I think that the world of cryptocurrencies is perfectly tailored to people like myself, to entrepreneurs, especially around in and around the ecosystem. And I think that it's very close to also Dutch culture that takes the risks, advance, push forward, and not shy about being direct about how to do it. And I'm finding it quite a pleasure to be able to work in such a more complex ecosystem, because when people always ask cryptocurrency, what is it? Is it technology, blockchain, right? Is it currency? I mean, you can pay with it these days. You can even pay rent with it in some countries. And lastly, is it an asset? And as the asset manager, I'm like, yay, it's all three. So you're actually able to push the frontiers, the evolution of technology, the economy, and financial markets as a whole across the board, while just pushing one click, which is cryptocurrencies.
Were you always into economics and like trends or money?
Well, I started primarily from more of the governance side. So how do you merge the economy or the financial ecosystem alongside public structures, so governmental, more political parties. And I think that this is also where I found a lot of passion in it, because I always believed, especially as a naive youth, that politics, governance, the way that we do things in the public arena is the best way to shape the next generation, handing them a better mental to carry on and advance humanity one step, two steps maybe. And as long as we're going forward, I mean, that's better than taking a few steps back into the Middle Ages or something. And at the end, I found that the financial ecosystem is much more advanced in pushing that side. Primarily when you look at companies like Tesla or Amazon, they're not anywhere close to public affairs or changing policies in Congress or the Tweede Kamer or in other places. But in indirect manner, they advance humanity tremendously. Nobody talked about electric cars 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Now everyone looks at Tesla and who was it, Hertz, that bought like 100,000 Teslas. So I think that there is something amazing within the financial ecosystem, and those that work in and around it are kind of the shapers of our futures. And that keeps me in, that really keeps me very tight within this ecosystem.
And is it, I always wonder, do you know why it's called cryptocurrency?
Well, I think to an extent, when you look back, there's a few different ways of looking at it. So I think that if you're asking yourself why crypto is just named crypto, I think that you need to look at the origins of this entire ecosystem. The entire ecosystem is very anarchistic in nature, very between anarchistic and libertarian, in a way that you decentralize traditional fields into something that is a bit more private, not a bit, like much more private. Usually you don't know who is the other person you could transact with, but with full transparency behind it. To an extent, it started quite cryptic. You decrypt or you crypt information in a very safe manner to protect your identity, your privacy, while on the other side, allowing others to be able to still have full transparency on what you're doing.
Nice. Yeah, because I think that's also maybe a part why it's like we're demystifying the world of crypto. I think it's for a lot of our community members or visitors of Venture Cafe are not really familiar yet. I think there's a small group that is really into it and that are maybe connected to all these like Discord groups or WhatsApp groups or, helping each other. And we see a lot of Instagram influencers popping up. YouTube, of course, has a lot of channels. Each crypto coin these days has a channel. And
they all give financial advice without giving financial advice, which is brilliant.
I'm very well. Okay, and how is that? Like, how do you see those things? Like, you see those things happening and financial advice, and you, of course, do that too.
Well, we usually always start, especially during events, by saying the following should not be taken as a financial advice. And I think that the prime reason for it is that you look at this entire social side of crypto, and you have people that are extremely into the technology, and you'll see debates about is this code correct and how do you even do it better, and people even try to hack one another, kind of white hackers, to test the limits and the strengths of different cryptocurrencies, not to harm them, but to show, hey, we find an error, make it better, make it more robust. And if you go to this side of the discussion, it's completely different kind of color, as we put it, different kind of vibe than if you go to a more, which coin is going to do 10x? And then on those talks, you'll usually be like from Shibu and Dogecoin and where Bitcoin is going and what would be the price appreciation and this kind of talks. And it's a completely different kind of world. And I think that this is also the beauty of this ecosystem. A lot of people try to give it just a one color, crypto. And at the end, this is an evolution. And this is across the board general evolution from how do you make and connect companies in a better manner to the underlying security and cybersecurity of this thing called the internet. And if you look at it from a societal perspective, then you usually get kind of those different kind of podcasts, different kind of YouTube channels, different kind of influencers, and different kind of places that crypto touch them all just in a different manner.
Yeah. And I'm wondering that, were you always, did you always like instantly believe in this whole, upcoming thing of crypto, or did you also had to find your way in, okay, is this something interesting, or because it is quite new, of course, but how was it for you to just, roll into this whole business? And could you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I think to an extent I'm very much with the belief of kind of a saying that Barack Obama said once, it's trust but verified. So that's a bit of my mentality. I'm quite libertarian in my nature, but I'm also quite conservative with upcoming new things. So I like to geek out and enter and be as open-minded as possible. But I also always try to aim to be also very critical. So going into crypto, it was like, okay, the technology, it's not like I'm an engineer, so it's not like I'm saying, oh, wow, I know how to decrypt crypto. But I can understand the kind of MVP at the time and how it should work and how it's aimed to be utilized. And then on the other side, I had, and I still do have, a lot of criticism about scalability, about where is crypto going. And like these days, when people are extremely happy, and me as well, that crypto is now at a size of about $3 trillion, that's T, with for an actual T, unlike some Trumpian Ts. But it grew tremendously and it keeps on growing. But then if you look at the wider economy, you're looking at hundreds of trillions. So crypto is still very much emerging. And then the question of how does it connect? Where are the proof of utility and work and stake and all those different kind of nice crypto Twitter bullet points that still need to be also put to practice. And that's where I'm the most critical these days, especially that I'm one of those people that if you talk the talk, walk the walk. So if you're if people that are very much only Bitcoin, great, then scale it. Look at the white paper. Try to advance where Bitcoin should be. Advance the utility, advance the adaptability of it. And same with Ethereum and other core layer protocols. But there is a need to push, there is a need to drive. And this is something that I have to admit is still part of the scalable questions that continuously arise around crypto, like from regulators to financial institutions to kind of down-to-earth technology. It's all still there, questioning and doubting, can it? And to be fair, I'm sounding quite critical right now, but at the end, it does. It really does, but at its own speed. And let's be also a bit frank about it. There's a joke in crypto that we age quite well. So a year in crypto is like 7 years in the traditional field. So just out there. So we count it very much in dog years. And in that regard, you see that you can have a year in crypto and you go from only having Bitcoin to suddenly have Bitcoin, Ethereum, and 5,000 other assets. And then a year or two later, you suddenly have DeFis and NFTs, and now we're talking about GTs, and there's continuous growth there that is part of that. Like, okay, we need to scale. How do you scale? We need to get there, and just across that mountain. Okay, then we have a year, punch, and you get there, and then you realize, oh crap, it's a chain of mountains. So there's quite a lot of more scalability to it.
I think that is also very interesting to see that, the traditional banking system, you just, put your money away and it doesn't really scale or grow or that fast.
I think even the other way around, right? I mean, I think that we live in a bit of a weird financial state right now. That let's say I go to the bank and I want to deposit my hard-earned cash there, and the moment I reach 100,000 or so, I'm actually renting the spot. Now, I'm not renting it where the bank actually holds 100% of the cash that I've put there. Actually, I'm renting a server, and that server communicates with the app from the bank that already shows me those digital euros that I have on my bank account.
True.
And I love hearing from bankers, which I appreciate a lot of colleagues out there still, but part of my criticism is then when they say, yeah, but there's no tangible underlying value to crypto. And I'm like, great, that's okay. I'm not sure if I can agree with that position, but what is the safe value of the underlying service that you provide? So you don't hold all the euros that you're claiming to show to all of your clients. You just don't.
Indeed,
It's literally also on their yearly reports. And they're not supposed to as well, to an extent. They're supposed to try to hedge themselves.
Yeah.
So this is something that I feel that the banking sector, out of all of the sectors right now, and I keep on telling it to colleagues out there, they're under siege. And there's not a lot of way to go around it. Because if you are a banker, you are in the crossroads of finance to a degree. You're between all of us as citizens and providing loans and banking services, et cetera, but now you see companies like Coinbase and Kraken and Crypto.com and others that come there and say, well, why should you have 1% or 0.0 something? I got an update a few days ago and from my bank saying, oh, great, it's now by 0.0 something percent less. Thank you. A few more cents in. But you can go to those parties and you get 6%, 10%, 40%. And for the general public, especially those that don't come from the upper middle class, higher classes, the rich of our society, it's tempting because we live in a rich society, in a richer world, and everyone wants to be part of it. It's the glam of Instagram. It's the enthusiasm of Twitter. It's all of those things that connect together but don't always end up in the same result in the bank account. And when crypto is now advancing, giving those services, as well as even the private banking is being changed. Icoinic is a good example as an asset manager, one of the biggest in the Netherlands. We provide asset management funds for clients that would otherwise might go to the bank. And if you look at it in the cross-private sector, on this front, the banks are extremely challenged. And usually a good siege is a full siege, so it's a full all around them. So on the other side of it, you have the European Central Bank, the German Central Bank, the Italian central banks, among others throughout not just Europe, but the world, that are now playing with CBDCs or central bank digital currencies, which literally take away the bank, where the central bank says, I don't need you, I can talk directly to the citizen. So move aside. And in a world where you have the biggest central banks entering the field of launching their own stable coins or crypto, governmental crypto, that is attached to the euro, the banks are fully under siege between the public and private sector. And it will be interesting to see how they deal with it in the next 5 years.
Yeah, because that was exactly what I was wondering. What do you think? What will happen? Is it like the end of the traditional banking system, or how is it going to look like in a few years?
Yeah, so I think in the short, medium term, definitely not. So people still rely on it. I mean, I still need to, when I jump on a call with my father or mother, I still need to explain how to get out of WhatsApp and look at something that I'm sending. And so there's more technical challenges. Yeah. So I think for those that are above 60 or so, the bank is still the first step that you go to, and that's what they know, and that's perfectly fine. But it will not sustain itself. So what I would see is that you'll see banks going into consolidation periods where quite well-known banks will have to combine with one another to buy more years to deal with these evolving markets, to be able to be more competitive with better services. And probably a lot of them would have to put crypto on their balance sheet. And a good example of it is Julius Baer out of Switzerland. Mm-hmm. They were always known as a very traditional bank. They still are to a great extent. But they saw the sign on the wall, and they acquired Zeba Bank earlier last year, and they have the first digital currency bank. They provide banking services within this ecosystem, and it's part of their long-term view that, fine, the next 5 years will be challenging, but the next 10 years means, do we survive or are we out? And for those banks that have those longer-term perspectives, for also maybe parties that are even larger than banks, the pension funds. If the pension funds, that some of them hold trillions upon trillions of our liability towards them in our pension, in our retirement policies, they would have to start evolve now during the next coming years. And again, my view is that probably banks this coming 5 years will start to hear again kind of the ABN AMRO stories. You know, you have a lot of collections of banks that need to come together to consolidate, to become a bit better, to be able to compete. And not to say that this is the ABN as an example of a bank that might go there, but there will be, I think, quite a lot of well-known names that will hear, oh yeah, they came together, they need to make it into a stronger business case.
Interesting. And I am always wondering, because we, in the world of startups, we always said, you don't have to go to a bank with your idea. Everyone is just, crowdfunding, or of course, getting some money in from, friends, fools, family. Is crypto, is it an option for startups already? Or what kind of companies are ready to be, for example, a client of Icoinic?
So maybe I'll split it into two things. First of all, we have a saying within the crypto ecosystem, be your own bank. And this is something very strong within our DNA. If you're heavily into crypto, you take your own financial responsibilities, you find the right assets for you, and you become your own bank. You generate your own returns. You can give loans to the ecosystem. You can take loans yourself, pay and repay in cryptos. So I am my own bank. So I don't care to call to my account manager and ask for anything, because why? I can do it much better. And by my own hands, I have my own controls. With regard to companies on the other side that might want to enter crypto or try to have an allocation and access to crypto asset management services, if I have to open my portfolio of clients, I'll see that I have high and ultra high net worth individuals, people that are able to access funds, primarily because of the regulatory minimal ticket requirements, because without it, I'd actually much rather service the wider population as well. But then we also have BV's, so private companies, as well as family offices, family funds, funds of funds, etc. So I think that you see more and more of those smaller to medium-sized asset managers, as well as companies that can't afford not to have access to crypto. They need to have a better performing asset on their balance sheet. And don't get me wrong, if a company comes to me or a person comes to me and says, well, these are my last 100,000 euros, I'll be like, well, maybe you should hedge yourself a bit. Maybe don't put all your eggs in one basket. But if a company comes to me and says, look, we have our real estate side, we have our regular cash flow and revenues and so on, and all of them are okay, but the margins are not as good at the end of the year, what can we do? And then we start talking about what crypto can do on their portfolio. And
so it's always a mix, like
I think for any person, it's a good idea to have a diversified portfolio. So take me as a good example. I will not come to any person and say, have 100% of your capital in crypto. Not because I don't think you should have access to crypto, but because you should be responsible for your own account. I have it sometimes. We have a tradition in the office to do something called walk to talk. And that's where I walk with my fellow colleagues, and we just do 30 to an hour walk just in and around the canals, and we talk about how you view yourself, how is it at work, and so on. And one of the things that I love to stress with my colleagues is that try to look at yourself as a portfolio. So if I have to look at myself as Wilhelm, I have my emotional portfolio. Where do I, who do I date? Why do I date them? Do I want to be alone a bit? Am I happy within my financial situation, within my in my apartment, which I'm not. I'm moving to a new one next week. And so I have my personal, private, emotional portfolio. Also, do I grow? Do I learn? Do I study? And then also as myself as a financial company, Wilhelm Co. And then I look at it and I say, okay, I have technically a lot of risk from crypto because it's still quite a volatile asset class, but its returns, I can't deny them. And I also agree with the governance and the way it works. But to hedge it, I also hold other assets. So it could be real estate or gold or art or other alternative investment vehicles. But I look at myself as a portfolio, and I always advise to people, sometimes it's hard, but it's within the fiscal side, it's good to be clinically direct with yourself. How do I look? Where do I want to be? And this is me as a financial portfolio. And now let's manage it better. And where I think Icoinic really provides an amazing service is telling them, okay, how about you take your burdens and worries from the 24/7 nature of the cryptocurrency market and come with a professional investment instruments that does it 24/7, 365 days a year, and non-stop with superior results. And in that, I think that people, when they realize that they had enough with being addicted at looking at their phone in the 3, 4, 7 different apps.
Indeed, yeah.
That maybe it's better to let someone else do it for them.
Yeah, I think that would be the biggest advantage, because I think it's we call it demystifying the world of crypto, and that's how I feel about it. It's financial knowledge is not something that you get whenever you're at school. So a lot of things are not explained, and I'm not even starting to talk about let me say the difference between male and females, because a lot of language being used in the financial world is a little bit more male dominated, as if I may say. And a lot of people were like, okay, finances, it's a difficult thing. I don't really understand it, but I'm really good as an entrepreneur. But I'm not sure how to manage, my money basically. But how could we make sure that the world of crypto, and that is not, because it's already in the word, that's why I asked, like, it's cryptic, it's crypto. It sounds a little bit scary too, but how can we make sure that whatever, what you guys do at Icoinic, that it's going to be more mainstream, as in, if you're a company, you are a BV, for example, you have, it's going well, you have a lot of money, and how do you want to invest it? How do they basically find you, and how do they understand that this is important to do? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs here that are stacking their money, and of course using those platforms and doing it themselves, being your own bank. But it's also a lot of, as you mentioned, burden and like worries, and every time checking your coins and stuff. But how do you basically tell the story like, hey, I think this is the moment that you need to think a little bit more professional about, managing your investments, or hey, you should come to Icoinic, or what is that? I'm searching for the part of, how do we make sure that it's going to be a little bit more mainstream, or that the information about a crypto is more available, or do you do something about that too?
Yeah, so I think that there's two things that are usually, I think, prerequisites for it. One, just pure transparency. I think when people don't need, like when you use your credit card, are you asking yourself about the God knows how many technical aspects that occur after you just go and pin it on the machine? You don't. It's just click, dang, paid.
Yeah, true.
You get your little invoice, and you're signing it, and you continue with your day. You don't even think about how it went to the server, how was it encrypted, decrypted within centralized systems in the bank. What was the entire moment from hitting the credit card or the debit card on the machine to the point that it analyzed and reduced it on your digital bank account, that you could see it on your phone later. Mm-hmm. Crypto, as an emergent technology, started with a very developer-heavy side, which made it quite cryptic as well, right? When you see 20, 30, 100 numeral codes, and you need to remember them, and what is the password, and how do you transact crypto is usually also something that you hear a lot, and is it safe? All those questions are something that is already evolving out, and a good example of it is MasterCard and Visa that are already providing credit cards that are paid through crypto. So I have a credit card that is from a crypto exchange, and I can pay with crypto whatever I want. I just bought a new bed for the new apartment. I paid with crypto. I buy plane tickets or vacation with my credit card. I pay with crypto. That crypto also pays me back because I get about 8%. I'm not sure how to put rendement, but back into my account when I do purchases. When I pay every month for my Netflix, it's actually free. I don't pay for it. So there's something superior about the offerings that crypto is already doing without you even needing to know. So make it simple, stupid is quite critical in adoption. True. On the other side, it can only get there through layers of trust. So let's say you come to Icoinic, as you mentioned very well, from let's say you're a company, you're an entrepreneur, you already bought a few, let's say, few Bitcoins, a few Ethereums, whatever you have on your portfolio. And you're thinking, oh, Jesus, I can't follow it like that. It's addictive. I go for it every moment or so. Then you go and search for an asset manager, which is a natural thing. Like if you're obsessed by real estate, at a certain point, you'll contact an asset manager or a real estate company. Same goes with crypto. But then you need to feel that where you're going is a proper company. It can't be managed anymore from your mom's basement. It's, nostalgic for sure, but probably not the safest way to do it. And then you come to a company like Icoinic, and we have a team of 20 people, traders, developers, account managers, compliance, from legal, risk, a proper team. Alongside it, we have partners like IQEQ that does our fund administration. So when a client logs in and looks at their numbers, it's not just us telling him, hey, this is the numbers and trust us.
Yeah.
It's actually a third party that continuously, week by week, checks our numbers, reports to our clients, so they know that the numbers there are verified not by just one company, but actually by a firm that has 26 jurisdictions that it works at with over 3,000 people. So building those layers of trust by third parties, fund administrator, we're, as far as I'm aware, the only audited funds in the Netherlands. And when you see that you're able to audit crypto funds, it's just like, okay, then you can actually trust where exactly, and it should be safe.
Yeah.
You should not doubt if your money is really there. You should not be afraid that some hacker with less good intentions can just go in and take the amounts, and you'll never know. In 2017 and 18, in the previous cycle, there were companies that disappeared with clients' capital. You can't have that anymore. You know, there's something so fundamentally wrong with not having any security around these kind of structures. And I'm so proud that for us at Icoinic, we always look at ourselves as pioneers. We are not forced by the financial regulator to have a fund administrator. We're not forced having an auditor. We're not forced having the armies of accountants and legal teams and so on to provide the service to our clients. If we wanted to, we could have been quite nimble back at the basement or something and provide the same service and just trust us. We said no, we want to build a proper financial institution that is built in this new asset class spirit, in this new agile, energetic, revolutionizing side of it, while at the same side being part of the evolution of the entire financial ecosystem as a whole. And that, I think, is something that is continuously going to start changing in this ecosystem. And you know, there's something that people always say about crypto. It's the Wild West, right? It's like cowboys and those guys that buy Lamborghinis and whatever Elon Musk memes around it. And it's usually thrown by the traditional financial side as kind of like, you see, you're not mature, you have a long way to go. And I always say, well, I'll adopt this metaphor. Fine. You want to go with the Wild West story. I'm a bit of a keen geek of history. I love this to talk about how humans evolved and the story that we carry with us. And it started like a Wild West. The Wild West started by having brave pioneers that wanted to explore new lands. And they went there and took the risk and built and grew. And with them came cowboys, yes. With them came a lot of baggage that we still analyze these days. But at a certain point, they needed roads. They needed trains. They needed housing. They needed banks. They needed asset managers. And after a while, the Wild West transformed into what we know today as California and Oregon and Washington State. And it seems like the Wild West got institutionalized.
Indeed, it's a whole system, because there's a lot of critique, of course.